Edwards on the drive, goes inside the floor. Turn him over again. Booker scoops it up. Booker brings the boom.
Finally, the long week is over. We are back NBA Hardwood for Thursday. I mean, last night's game was entertaining. What a ridiculous 13.5-point spread, right, for the Lakers, who ultimately lost to the Hornets at home. Luka looking plump, LeBron looking brickish, and now Luka will miss tonight. LeBron is questionable. There's 9 games. Both sites have 9 games. Could not be happier to be back. It is freezing most of the places you might be in the United States, certainly down here in Atlanta. I was up in New York this week, D.C., and it was 18 degrees, which is disgusting. Not weather meant for humans. Certainly not beautiful humans like myself with beautiful skulls that are devoid of luxurious hair for protection, even though it looks better that way. But how are you doing? How'd you spend the All-Star break? Are you excited that we begin? And by the way, DC, we're both, I mean, this was happening before, but we were both going to hell. We were making fun of Victor Wembanyama, saying that, you know, he was couldn't deal with just playing after a couple of days ago because of the difficult defense in the All-Star game. Turns out he's near death, and we hope everything works out for him. He's going to miss the rest of the season. But between that, between the Lakers news, between the Hornets news, between the Clippers news, this became an interesting, almost like any other slate. It could be like a slate where 5 teams are on back-to-backs the way that this is shaping up, not one where you think most teams have had a week off. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. A lot to cover there. No, let me say first, no surprise that the first real slate back is just chock full of injury news, right? We were never going to get a break from this. Frankly, we're not going to get a break from this for the rest of the season. It's only going to get more extreme as we get to the close of the season. And man, I got to say, I feel like Wembanyama out for the season and the Luka trade, just the state of the NBA right now where it's so unserious that I feel like even like these should be like monumental events, right? The young star is out for the season with a blood clot, or Luka gets traded. And I almost feel like it just it's like, who cares? You know, outside of like the gambling portion of the NBA, which by the way, I very much love and I'm excited to do tonight. Yeah. Like the actual league itself is, man, they got some hard questions I think to answer over the next few years. But I'm good, happy to be back. It feels like a grass is greener situation, JT, where, you know, prior to the All-Star break, I was kind of looking forward to the All-Star break, you know, disconnecting a little bit, getting to the mountains most days. The All-Star break gets there and you're like, man, I miss gambling. I want the NBA back. And now today, you're looking at the injury report. You're like, man, I kind of wish it was a boring Thursday afternoon and I had absolutely nothing to do right now. So, you know, kind of all over the place as far as that goes.
You run out of things to do pretty quickly when you don't have DFS, if that's what you do every day, right? Every day, my wife will joke about this. She'll say, you know, her whole life revolves around lock time, right? Yeah. She'll come home from work and literally, and I love that she's been trained fully now. She has embraced this lifestyle and will say, what time is lock? What time is lock? What's going on? What are we doing?
You got it. You got a good one. You got a good one, JT.
Yeah. Well, listen, the money helps every now and then when she sees that and she gets to do some cool things. So, but what I will also say is, as someone who comes to DFS, I came to NBA DFS, and it's been probably 7 years now since I've been playing NBA DFS. I came to it as not a fan of the NBA. I came to it as someone who casually rooted for the Knicks when John Starks and Patrick Ewing were on the team many years ago. And sort of lost touch with the league, right? Didn't really care about it. It was sort of like I hadn't watched a game in a long time. And when I started playing Major League Baseball DFS, then NFL DFS, like we just talked about with the All-Star break, it was like, all right, football season's over. Man, it's 3 months. It's 3 months until baseball. And I said, well, let me dabble in the NBA and started to love it. Not for the league, just because it's easy to find edge on any given night. I think some of the tournaments, in terms of the way you see people building lineups, it became kind of fun to me. So I don't care about Luka Doncic. Like I don't get like generational talent. Exactly. We've seen this before. Yao Ming was going to be great, right? 7-footers, fantastic, great. Wemby's tall, he's thin, and now he's got a health ailment that he's going to miss. I think the biggest thing is if you were a Spurs fan, long suffering under Greg Popovich these last few seasons, it looked like you were heading out of the tunnel, right? There was a light at the end of the tunnel. They make the big trade for De'Aaron Fox. You got some young talent that you're excited about. And now, who knows, right? Because they say, hey, he should recover, but that's a pretty significant situation. So we'll see what happens there. We do have Zach in chat. Zach is, I guess, DC, you've got a date tonight, and you should have led with that you were excited to spend time with Zach tonight. I'm not sure what Thirsty Gerbil is. It's not a game that I have played, certainly recently, or in ever with any man, Travis, but I don't know. I mean, you're in a place that looks like maybe Thirsty Gerbil has been played there just because there's absolutely nothing else there. There's a TV on the floor. Travis, it looks like it's cold where you are as well. What's going on, man?
Yeah, it's Thursday night, Thirsty Gerbil at the Mangone house, but we're having a good time. We're hanging out.
Thirsty Gerbils is too many Thirsty Gerbils.
I don't know. I have no idea what that is, but having a good time. Break was fine. Spent some time doing some stuff. Spent some time, still grinding DFS. I was in the Madden Sim Street, still am, so I'm enjoying that. That's a good time.
You got to take a little break and not go to the Madden streets.
No, Madden Sims are where it's at. You don't understand.
Monday night, this is Monday night, right? I had to fly up to New York. I had some business, and it was supposed to snow there really heavy today because I was going to come back today. And I said, let me go a day early, even though Monday was a holiday. So I get up to New York. I wake up in the middle of the night, thirsty, and I see my phone is lighting up. It's like 3 a.m. And I'm like, how's it going? Mangone is live. Mangone is live on, and I'm like, what is he doing at 3 o'clock in the morning? And then, DC, I made a smart decision. I said, you know what? Nothing good happens at 3 a.m., no matter where it is, especially on X. Mangone live casting from the Gerbil house. I said, you know what? I'm going to put the phone down. Forget it. I don't want to know.
Mangone, did you remove the beanie at any point during the All-Star break?
No, I actually did multiple times. I've actually been wearing the backwards hat a little bit more, not as much on stream. I'm thinking of cutting my hair soon too, so we'll see. JT, I was actually live on an X stream. People were talking about betting, and there was this one guy who claimed to be a pro sports bettor, and I asked him just one question, JT. I said, do you value CLV when you do your bets, right? CLV should be an important part of your process, in my opinion. And he was fumbling the phone, and it sounded like he had to Google what CLV was. So that was very entertaining. You missed out on some idiots, I'll say that.
Sean, you are correct.
3 a.m. You're on a stream with some random. I'm really confused as to.
There's been these like betting spaces going on that have been like entertaining and fun, and people calling out scammers in the industry. It was entertaining.
Get some sleep, man. Go 3 a.m. Get some sleep. You know.
Well, to be fair, it's 3 a.m. JT's time, where it's 1 a.m. my time, right? So that's part of the reason. So 1 a.m. I don't think is egregious. I'd agree if it was 3 a.m. Mountain time, it'd probably be a little.
All right. So you were asleep in the beanie by 3.
Yeah, that's correct. And I did not sleep with the beanie on.
All right. So anyway, we're excited to be back. If you can't tell, Thirsty Gerbils and all. Oh man, that is hurtful. Go Fies. Okay.
I do wash the hat. That's very hurtful.
It's rare, but it gets washed. All right.
I've watched it many times.
All right, let's get into these 9 games. If you have any questions, Guys, go ahead and drop them in the comments. We'll do our best to get to them. Let's start with a really high total, Travis, but one of the more disgusting spots, I think, of the night in terms of trying to pinpoint who might do well. You've got two pretty much fully healthy teams here, massive rotations, Memphis and Indianapolis. Memphis favored by 2.5. It's a 250 total. And the only injuries here that are of note, there really are none. So pretty much two fully healthy teams, a couple of guys who may play a minute here and there on Indianapolis are questionable, and then a couple of guys who never play on Memphis are out. So you're going to see the 10, 11-man rotations here. Memphis, Indiana. Looks like Miles Turner is going to be somewhat popular on DraftKings. He's a little cheapish, but I don't know. Even with this high total, Mangone, I'm struggling to find plays that I really have a ton of interest in outside of just a handful of percentage in MME. What about you?
No, I'm with you. Kind of similar thought process there, but there's like prices you just can't completely ignore. If you're like a single entry guy, yeah, I could easily see passing on this game, even a 3 max. I could see passing on it, or I could see maybe just like getting a splash of a player here or there. Now, the guys that are most interesting to me, I think Benedict Mathurin and I always say it's wrong. I think it's Mathurin, 5,200. I just think that's really cheap, and the minutes are finally there.
I want to fucking mute you. I want to mute you.
Why?
Benedict Mathurin on a fully healthy team on a 9-game slate.
Can you
listen?
Can I
have a good game?
You don't let me explain. I didn't say to play him in single entry 3 max. I didn't say that. My point is, GT, he's 5,200, and he finally.
We were off to such a good start, DC. We were off to a good start. Go ahead, Travis.
So he's 5,200. If you're an MME player, there's just upside at the price, right? Especially with them playing 31 and 33 minutes the past 2 games. Now, to be fair, that was with Miles Turner out. Miles Turner is now back. But I just don't think it's crazy at the price. And we'll shift over to Miles Turner. I mean, $6K for Miles Turner is pretty cheap, right? Like for the ceiling that he can provide in a matchup where they're going to need his size. That's really the only 2 guys that I'm like kind of interested in. Like Aldama at 5,400, you can make a case for his upside. He's got a ceiling. But I think there's better. I think for 4,500, there's already better values on the slate that I'd rather get to. Aaron Nesmith is someone that will pop in optimizers. I would not be playing a lot of Aaron Nesmith. He is someone that I will be lower than the field on. But when I ran projections earlier, Aaron Nesmith was popping. He was. DC, I know you're giving a face, but it's just the truth. He was popping earlier in the day, and it's just worth mentioning. I think he's over-owned. I'm not saying I'm playing him. You guys don't let me finish my statement, so you guys.
We're letting you finish. But to be fair, you ran that before we had the news about Charlotte, before we had the news about Wembanyama, before we had the news about Luka being ruled out, right?
Even with the news after Charlotte, not as much with the Lakers stuff. We also don't know what's happening with the Lakers too, 100%. But I'm telling you, he'll gain some ownership. He's gained ownership so many slates. Like you laugh at it, JT, but people in our own Discord were rostering him not too long ago. I'm not
laughing at the fact that people will play him.
Yeah.
I'm laughing at the fact that we would consider playing him.
We're not considering it, JT, but part of the problem is with DFS, you have to talk about the plays that are gaining ownership and understand, hey, I don't think he's a good play. I think this is an edge on the slate. I think that's valuable information. Maybe you disagree.
You were the only one looking at Aaron Nesmith. Nobody watching was like, do I need to play Nesmith?
You're wrong on that. So it's okay. You go back in the mountains, DC. He was definitely someone that people were considering rostering earlier in the day.
Why?
So here's the thing, right? Nesmith.
He's starting at 37 we didn't have value earlier. Sure, some stuff will shift.
But you know it was going to come up. There's 9 games.
People don't adjust for that, DC. I late swap every single night, and I see the low ownership every single night.
All right. What else? What do you got? What do you got on the Memphis side, Travis? Anything on the Memphis side?
Maybe Aldama, maybe Bane if you just land on a spend up shooting guard, but I don't think so. Like it's just not a spot that I like these guys. Like I get it. They're guys that were popping up earlier. Like even a Pascal Siakam I was seeing a little bit of, but I don't think it's a good play. I'd rather go to other studs. I think there's better spend ups.
I think Siakam's a result of him having some really good games lately. But as you pointed out, that was because Miles Turner was out. Mathurin, just to be clear, that 5,200 price point, that's about where he is all the time. And a little bit less usage now with Turner back. DC, in multi-entry, I'm going to have my rule tonight is going to be max 2 per team, no matter what the team. And I may go down to 1 for these 2 teams just because I find it near impossible that two players from either one of these teams are going to be in the optimal. What do you like here?
Yeah, I have no idea why you'd play players from this game. I mean, the total, it is weird, right? The highest total on the slate, one of the highest totals of the season. But that's just the way that NBA DFS is. That doesn't really matter nearly as much as all the injury stuff and all the slate news that's going to come on the slate matters. So, I mean, these teams are, compared to almost every other team on the slate or in the league, like really, really healthy. Most of their stars ready to go. There's no way I'm playing like the cheap, in my opinion, very questionable value and guys like Neesmith and Benedict Mathurin. There's just no way. I'll wait and hopefully other stuff will open up. And if it doesn't, you're still going to be on similar plays to those guys. It's not like you're going to have some, taking some huge hit that you didn't get to play a 5,200 Benedict Mathurin. So I'm off this game. Frankly, the next game too, Boston and Philly, unless we get news there, I think this is a good slate. Move on to the next 7 games. Wait for the news to come. How many games do we have at 7:30? It looks like 3 games.
Yeah, three games. 3 games at 7:30. Go ahead, DC. Before you go on to the Boston and Philadelphia game, Travis, would you do us a favor and give us the news in the Boston and Philadelphia game?
Yeah, this is actually a great backload slate, which I'm always a fan of. The news in that game, I don't think there's actually anyone that's out or in. I think there's nothing there. I guess, yeah, there's really nothing to give. I mean, we have guys that are already out, if you don't know, Eric Gordon, Kyle Lowry, Justin Edwards, Xavier Tillman. But both these teams are very, very healthy in this game.
All right. DC, it doesn't sound like you want anybody here. I mean, Joel Embiid is in. The carcass of Paul George is going to be on the court here this evening. Any interest in any of these guys? It's hard for me, really, on both sides with the prices to even consider wanting to have more than one of these guys per team in multi-entry.
Yeah, the Sixers are funny because they're like technically one of the teams, that still has like star players and is in, but they're kind of a sad sack team, honestly. Embiid and Paul George, I don't know, just not a team that I enjoy, and probably not one I'm going to enjoy tonight either. So this is another game, JT, where I'm planning on waiting for the next batch of games, and hopefully a bunch of news that comes down the pipeline, and maybe people get locked into some early plays that I don't feel the need to go to on my 5 teams tonight. So, yeah, I'm out on this one too.
All right. Travis, Boston at Philadelphia. Celtics favored by 7, 225.5 total. We just said, though, 2 really fully healthy teams at full price. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'll ask DC this question. Who is currently showing up at 10% or more ownership? If you haven't looked, in this game, there's only one. Everyone else is under 10% right now. I don't know if that'll happen.
Are you talking DraftKings or FanDuel?
DraftKings. I'm talking DraftKings. There's
10%?
Yeah.
I
don't know if it's going to stick, but as of right now, that's what we have at Sabres and here. He's at 15%.
Yeah.
Which guy is it?
Yeah.
I don't know. Tatum.
No, it's Drew Holiday. And I mean, 4,400 is cheap for Drew Holiday, but when you look around the slate,
I didn't scroll down that far. I didn't find him down there. I might have got it.
it's a really cheap price on him. I'm not playing it, but I just thought that was intriguing when I was running through the playbook and stuff. I was like, he's a value that was popping. Obviously, that can change, especially if a LeBron James gets rolled out. And we're not going to have this LeBron James news that quick, right? And when you look at the slate, DC, if I told you, hey, lock into Drew Holiday or backload for Dalton Connect, I don't know, I'd rather backload for Dalton Connect or Gabe Vincent or some of these other Lakers, right? There's just better plays that I'd rather get to. So a lot of these plays are low owned. Even a Quentin Grimes was kind of popping a little bit. And I know he's been good, but that was when they were That was when they weren't as healthy. Like, this is as healthy as they've been, it feels like. So I'm not excited to play guys in this game. I think this is a great spot to kind of be like continue to be under on and keep backloading. I mean, this game's not just a good one to get exposure to. So I'm looking to be well low on this. Sure, if you play like Jason Tatum looks like he's going to be 2%. Would I tell you you're crazy for playing at 4% of Jason Tatum? No, I wouldn't tell you you're crazy. I'd probably say that if you were playing a main lineup. I don't think it's the right move to go with, but that's kind of this game. There's not much to like in it. Joel Embiid could be a contrarian spend up versus Karl Anthony Towns, but I'll tell you this, I'd rather play Karl Anthony Towns. There's some spots where I want to eat the chalk, and that's a spot I'd rather eat the chalk.
We'll talk about it because the LeBron news, of course, dominates a slate. That's by design. But we'll talk about that because even if LeBron is in, I think there are better low-priced plays on the Lakers than Drew Holiday. I mean,
I'm with you.
Even if he's in. All right, let's move on, Travis, to the 7:30 Eastern window. Cleveland, the Cavaliers, they head into Brooklyn. They're going to take on the Nets. Cleveland favored by 13 points here, 225.5 total. And the Nets, they just did a bunch of weird shit over the break. They signed Killian Hayes. They signed Tyrese Martin. Noah Clowney's out. Claxton is going to be in for the Cavaliers. Okoro and Ty Jerome are questionable. Dean Wade is still out. They signed someone named Naquin Tomlin. What are your thoughts here, Cleveland at Brooklyn?
Is it me or DC?
You.
All right. This is definitely a game I really don't want to talk too much about. There are plays that are getting ownership that I was a little baffled by. I was confused by Cameron Johnson getting ownership. Matchup against Cleveland. Here's the thing. We know what the Brooklyn Nets are going to do. If it's a competitive game, yeah, sure. You are going to see Cam Johnson still probably get minutes, right? You'll see D'Angelo Russell get minutes, but there's a chance if it's close, they don't as well, right? They might just pull the guys. I'm assuming this game is a blowout. I'm assuming it's pretty ugly. I don't like to guess blowouts, but there are certain spots where I'm okay with just being like, hey, it's probably a blowout. If that's the case, they're going deep, right? They're playing Maxwell Lewis. They're playing Jalen Wilson, Tyrese Martin, all these guys. And I'm seeing Trenton Watford at 4K coming in at 20% ownership. I'm seeing Cam Johnson at 15. I'm seeing D'Angelo Russell at 15. Keon Johnson at 12, which if you force me to pick one, I think Keon Johnson is the best one because, dude, if the shots fall with Keon Johnson, he hits value, right? Like, there's upside there at the price. The problem is, are the shots going to fall? I don't know. In this matchup, I'd rather bet against it. I don't love it. I know Ty Jerome, he is someone that's dealing with an injury. He's questionable along with Isaac Okoro. Max Struss would then kind of pop a little bit, I believe, if Jerome got ruled out. I'm not completely buying that. Like, I do think what's going to happen is if Jerome got ruled out and Okoro, you would see people gravitate towards Max Struss. I don't see myself gravitating towards him. I don't think these Cleveland values are just naturally amazing guys. I think there's better values later on that I would rather take a chance on. So I'm going to be a lot lower on this game. I won't X out, like in MME formats, I won't X out the Garlands, the Allens, Mitchell, and Mobley, like those four guys. But I'll tell you this, I'll look at their ownership and I'll cap it, right? Like, I don't want to run the slate and like Donovan Mitchell, he's 3% owned and I have like 30% of him. I just think that's egregious. I don't think that's necessary. I don't think it's that good of a spot. I think there's a lot of volatility to this spot, and Cleveland just kind of, not running their guys out there for the full time. Sure, we've seen Evan Mobley in one half drop 40 DK points and have monster games, but I want to be cautious with these studs because, again, I think this is a slate that we need to backload for and take advantage of the late news that's going to be coming.
When I looked at this slate last night, I saw Keon Johnson's price on DraftKings, and I thought of all the Nets, he would be the one guy that I would be comfortable with having in MME because I think he is a guy that they're interested in developing. He's been playing consistently close to 30 minutes. But I'm not all that invested in it, DC, and certainly there's been some updates and there are better plays. He'll be in my MME pool. What are your thoughts here on Cleveland and Brooklyn?
Yeah, I mean, Brooklyn, you remember, like, I don't know, probably 2-3 weeks ago now, it looked like Jalen Wilson was going to be the guy that they gave like 35, 40 minutes a night to as, let's see what he has. And now look, he's playing like 17 minutes, 22 minutes, right? And I just, my point is it's not Jalen Wilson isn't the point. It's that the Nets are just, in a rudderless league, this is like the most rudderless team there is. And there's going to be plenty of nights where we have to play Nets, right? When they're down to 8 dudes and they're so cheap and there's not that many games and you just have to play them. And okay, I'll play them on those slates, but on big slates, when they're going to be, looks like fairly popular anyway, I'm going to do my best to get away from the Nets. I think you'll be able to tonight. Cleveland, I think, is way more interesting. I wouldn't go crazy with Cleveland, but I mean, these guys are going to have good games against the Nets, right? And they're not that expensive. So I think, JT, your rule limiting to 2 probably makes sense. I think 1 Cleveland would be kind of where I would go in a single entry. 1 of Mitchell or Mobley, I think, makes the most sense. Garland and Allen are fine plays. They'll be low owned. They're good plays, I think, honestly, at their ownerships. Just don't go too crazy on any one team with Cleveland, because if those guys are all going off, the game's going to get out of hand early. Brooklyn is really, really bad right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And a great analogy here for your point earlier of where this league is. I mean, it's the first game at the All-Star break, and this team is playing out the string. That's something that's a problem for the league going forward, but we're not really concerned about that with DFS. We're just concerned about the pricing and what the other plays are. Next game, DC, the Bulls head into the Garden to play the Knicks. Knicks favored by 11.5, 244 total. This Chicago team quickly becoming a team that is interesting, but at the same time, just disgusting and disappointing. But there is some news here that could make 1 or 2 of these plays interesting. You have Lonzo Ball, who is going to play. Patrick Williams has been ruled out for a couple of weeks, and that's kind of interesting for Matuz Bazelis. Jameer Young is someone they've signed on the Knicks side. The big news in this game is that Josh Hart is going to miss. That is big because of the minutes he plays, of course. OG Anunoby is still questionable, so he comes back in, then maybe it'd be a little bit less interesting, but I think it's still interesting here for the Knicks when you take away a big usage and minute piece like Josh Hart.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is the best. I don't even say best game on the slate because I don't really like the Chicago guys that much. But the Knicks guys, I mean, you have the team in Chicago that's one of the very best to play players against, just the pace they play, the lack of defense. You just pile up fantasy points in a hurry. Then you have the Knicks, who are kind of like the best team to play because you get really good players who in almost all circumstances are going to play 40 minutes, which is the case tonight. You're going to get 40 minutes of Towns and Brunson and Mikal Bridges against Chicago, and they're going to have good games. It's just a question of how good, right? Is it good enough? Is there another star that goes off more than Towns? But these guys are going to go out there and produce. I want as many Knicks as I can get into my lineups. I have no problem playing 3 Knicks together. I'll play Towns, Brunson, and Bridges all together on one team if Anunoby misses. Obviously, we already have Hart out. That's 42 minutes gone and a big role. If Anunoby misses, we know what Thibodeau will do and where the minutes are going to go. He doesn't pull any punches, right? There's no sneaky guy coming off the bench to come steal your minutes or get him out of the game. It's just not how it works. So if Anunoby misses, priority-wise, Towns is my favorite. Bridges would be second. I really, really like Bridges if Anunoby misses. And then Brunson third, but McBride, Payne, and then Precious Achua all become really good plays too, where I'm hoping Anunoby misses because this is, I think, one where you just can load up on the Knicks and your floor is very, very high and your ceiling is there too against Chicago. So this is, to me, kind of the clear free square team of the slate so far. I know they'll be popular, but these are the spots when you're going to get big minutes in a really good matchup. This is a chalk to eat, in my opinion.
I like the Knicks. I think the chances of 3 of those guys getting an absolute ceiling at the prices, unless you're talking about a McBride at 4K who starts and maybe he does well, then it makes a little bit of sense. Travis, what are your thoughts here on the Bulls and the Knicks?
Yeah, CJT, someone wants to hear me talk about plays while you interrupt me all the time.
Did you go on a heater on the Madden Sim streets that we didn't hear about?
Good question. We didn't say we didn't want to hear you. When you start off by saying that you're interested in Benedict Mathurin after we talk about how healthy the Pacers are and the type of slate it is, that's when we just wanted to have a conversation.
I can't wait to have a conversation and make it my play of the day, but we'll see. Let's get to the Atlanta Hawks and the Orlando Magic.
What a threat from Mangone.
What did he say? Hear what he said.
Well, you got to listen up, old man. Get that hearing aid out, and let's talk about the Orlando Magic and the Atlanta Hawks.
Maybe put some fucking furniture in your room, and the acoustics wouldn't be like you're in a goddamn prison, Travis.
The actually fun story about this. Actually, it's not fun, but my desk is coming tomorrow, JT, and I got a message. I paid for someone to. Fuck you,
Sorry. I don't. We got the same enjoyment either way. I don't know. All right, your desk is coming tomorrow.
My desk is coming, and I was like, I don't want to set this thing up. I paid for someone to do it. I had a gift card to do it. Whatever. I just put the extra money on it, called it a day. Used my credit card points and so on and so forth. And I get a text message this morning. We have no one that will get the job done for you. So it's not looking good for me. Hopefully they find
you want to come over and build your desk tonight, man? Going, I don't want to watch these basketball games. I'll come build your. How much were you paying the guy? I can do some freelance.
It was like $80. I used some credit card points. I was like, I don't want to set this thing. There's LED lights with it too and everything. I was like, I'm sure I'll fuck it up. I don't want to miss it. Let's get this set up. I set up other stuff. I don't want to do that. But all right, enough about that. Let's talk about the Magic and the Atlanta Hawks.
No, you're going to talk about the Bulls and the Knicks.
Oh, Bulls and Knicks. Okay. I go the same order. I wasn't listening to you. Bulls and Knicks. That's fair. All right. Josh Hart's out. OG is questionable. Do you guys think
we talked about this? Who the fuck do you like in the game?
I'm going through it right now. Do you guys think OG plays? I'm asking. I mean, maybe you discussed it already, but
I don't know. Tell us the inside info on OG.
We'll find out. I guarantee you the way this slate is going, at 6 o'clock, we're going to find out that OG's a game time decision. So we'll know right after lock.
GG, I want to know how you're building your lineups. I want to, you've got great core plays. You crushed it with Obi Toppin the other day. Maybe you got some gems for us. So, but Karl-Anthony Towns he's probably the best spend on the slate. I would say, right? If you had to pick one, I think he's even over Jokic. Like as
very
crazy
good
as
Very good.
Unless Damian Lillard or Giannis got ruled out, he would be the guy, I think, Karl-Anthony Towns. So I'm going to like him on this slate. I think he's a really strong play. Jalen Brunson as well, 8,400. I think he should be like 9,000 or maybe 9,200 in this specific spot, in this specific role. Precious Achiuwa at 5,700 likely will start. I think he's a really good play that you can get to, projecting really well. All these guys are going to have ownership. They're all good plays. JT, I think you could do max of, I know you said only max of 2 you're doing today. I think you could get away with max of 3 if the Knicks, if you wanted to, especially if OG got ruled out. And if OG does get ruled out, that's going to open up opportunity for Miles McBride. Campaign, as crazy as that sounds, but I do think there's better values than Campaign that we're going to get to later on. He's not one I'm completely buying, but I understand why he's popping. He's 3.3K. Shooting guard's not the greatest position. I guess with Austin Reeves, if you think he's a free square, then sure. Him and De'Aaron Fox, who we'll get to and talk about in a little bit. But those are all good plays. Mikal Bridges feels like that one guy that at 6,400, if OG's in, you're not going to like him as much as compared to Brunson and Cap. But if OG gets ruled out, that does open up a really nice opportunity for Mikal Bridges and his role to really open up. We get shift over to the Bulls. I'm not a big Vucevic guy. I'm seeing him getting 17% ownership tonight. Again, like I think that's 17% that I'd rather be under on. I know he's going to match up size-wise with Cap, but I don't totally get it. I don't think it's the right play on this slate. The guards are the interesting one to talk about now because they are missing a lot of guys, right, from like Levine getting traded. It's just a different situation. Lonzo Ball's minutes have finally upticked from 28 and 29. They did give him that big contract. At 5K, I don't think he's like a horrible value, but he feels like kind of like a condom play a little bit. My favorite upside play in this game is probably Kobe White at 6.6K. Between him or Josh Giddey, I lean Kobe White. Kobe White has not had the best games as of late, but if you look, it's mainly because he's been shooting like shit. Once the shooting turns around for him, we saw it last year. He had a really nice roll and was absolutely popping off and was like in like the 7K range, like upper 7Ks. I think by the time we get to like late March and April, you're going to see Kobe White in that 7K range as long as the Bulls keep playing their guys. So 6.6K Kobe White, I think there's upside. Like I said, the past 2 games, 2 for 14, 2 for 13. He showed upside against Golden State for 40. He had 37 in the other game, like against Miami. I just think there's upside there at his price that you can't ignore.
244 total here, so can't really argue about trying to find a bring back on the Bulls side. It's a little tough with the 3 guards there in the mix, although the Knicks have been, even when they've been blowing teams out, there have been a guy or two from the other side that has been able to get to a true ceiling. Now we'll move on, Travis, to the Magic and the Atlanta Hawks. The Magic favored by 1, only a 223 total, but outside of Jalen Suggs, pretty much 2 fully healthy teams. I think for me, when I look at Onyeka Okongwu at 6,100 on DraftKings, he's a guy that I'm looking at in this spot, and maybe the only guy that I'm really all that excited about, certainly from the Hawks side. A little bit tougher on the Magic side with really Banchero and Franz Wagner taking up most of the usage. What are your thoughts here?
Yeah, Banchero's and Franz Wagner's definitely 2 spends that you just can't ignore on this slate. Again, if you are spending up at forward, like I talked about earlier, do I want to spend for Pascal Siakam? No, I don't want to spend for Pascal Siakam. I'd rather go to a Banchero or a Franz Wagner, right? They're playing in matchups against Atlanta. Those are just impossible matchups to completely ignore. I do prefer Banchero more in this matchup. I do think he is the guy that I would gravitate towards if I had to pick one. I would be curious to get your guys' thoughts on the Wendell Carter Jr. stuff. He is 4.1K and popping. I don't know what to do with him. He is the one that I don't absolutely love. I saw him kind of popping a little bit. Again, I want to backload a bit. If the backloading doesn't work, I guess I could fall back on him 30 minutes after lock. I haven't been playing Trae Young that much at 9.4K. I think there's just better point guard spends that we've talked about. Karis LeVert at 5.3. He's another one that's popping that, I don't know. I think it's kind of he had a really good game that one game. I forget who it was against, but a matchup against Orlando is not good. I don't think he's the best play. I like Onyeka Okongwu. I've talked about him a lot on these shows. At 6.1K, I think that price is just crazy. I'll play him every single time he's 6.1K the rest of the season. I don't really care about the matchup. I think he's a good play, especially at 4% ownership. And then that's really it. I don't want to load up on these other guys. If Muhammad Gay starts tonight at 3.9K, sure, you can make a case for it, but like I said, I'm backloading for a lot of these values. I think it's too important to load up on those Lakers later on.
DC, the Magic, and the Hawks. What are your thoughts here?
How did Muhammad Gay get 44 fantasy points? This guy is so bad. I didn't see that game, but it's hard to believe, honestly.
I think that was also a night where I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it was the night where Capella was in, and then they ruled Capella out.
Yes.
And so he ended up playing a ton. I forget who it was. It may have been against the Bulls. But one of those weird, fast-paced games, and he went nuclear.
You never know. Atlanta side, I'm with you guys. I do think Okongwu clearly the best play there, just underpriced for what he can do at 6,100. So I totally get that play, even though the matchup's not perfect. You can overlook it for a player who's clearly underpriced for his matchup, for his talent and role, rather. Okongwu, that is. I do think he's the best play on the Hawks. Other than him, I mean, I don't think I'm going to end up on these guys. Trae Young, I guess, is fine, but not going to get there. So, yeah, Okongwu or bust pretty much for me with Atlanta. And then Orlando, I mean, kind of clearly, especially with Suggs out, a 2-man show here. Banchero, Franz Wagner. I mean, they're both going to have good games. They play big minutes. I prefer Franz most nights, including tonight, but very close between the two. Just kind of a personal preference, and he is eligible at small forward as well as Franz. So I do like him a little bit better if you're choosing between the two, but really, really close there. No problem, man, going with a $4,100 Wendell Carter. It's just plays like him, like that's just where you kind of want to keep in my opinion, you want to keep an eye on ownership because there's so many plays around that, like 4K, backup center, backup point guard, they're going to play. You don't want the ones that everybody else is riding with, right? Like I think that the margins are so close between those guys. So yeah, probably not going to end up on my roster.
You see, I wonder if he gets steamed up if like we're still sitting around and we're like, we don't have the news, you know what I mean? Like I think everyone's waiting.
Nothing worse than when you play one of those guys and you flips the cards and they're like 38% owned and you're like, man, what am I doing? What am I doing with this guy on my team? Yeah. So yeah. But harder to avoid than you don't know for sure, right? Sometimes I think it's just kind of random where it ends up from night to night.
All right. Definitely a full split there at center too with the Magic. They have other guys like I think Jonathan Isaac is still around there who he's off his injury. So just not something I'm all excited about, but understand the price point is low. The matchup is good. We'll move on to the next game. First, we'll congratulate Beanair for setting a record for trying to get some attention for winning the first Major League Baseball bet that he's laid of the season. The Cubs money line in the first spring training game.
Hey, baseball's back, JT. We'll take the baseball club.
Yes, congrats. I'm excited about it. Next game, DC Clippers at the Milwaukee Bucks. Clippers favored by 3, 228.5 total. On the Milwaukee side, I got to believe that at least Damian Lillard and Andre Jackson Jr. play. Giannis is questionable. Giannis has missed some time, but he could be in the mix here. For the Clippers, Norman Powell was a midday downgrade to questionable, usually with Ty Lue, but not always. Usually that means that guy is probably not going to play. Of course, you do have a lot of usage here between Kawhi, James Harden, and Ivica Zubac, but as we saw the last game before the break, they love Ben Simmons, DC. They love Ben Simmons. And I think you could see him play a lot of minutes in this game tonight. Of course, for the Bucks too, Bobby Portis suspended 25 games. And so they're going to be without him, potentially without Giannis as well. What are your thoughts?
It's a weird day of NBA news with the Wemby.
Yeah, it is. What day isn't?
Portis suspended for like the rest of the season. Okay. I guess that's a thing.
You missed that today? Yeah, that was.
No, I saw it, but like I'm saying, it's just like a drop in the bucket of the NBA news. You just don't even.
If you read the report, he like took the wrong pill, and there were like similar names or something, and I'm like, I'm not buying that shit. You were just trying to get away with shit.
Yeah, who knows? But Portis
happens all the time. There's someone in Discord, I can't say the name, trying to take Viagra, instead loads up on Vagisil. I mean, it's terrible. It happens. DC.
Happens to the best of us. Obviously, in Milwaukee, so much is dependent on the news. I'm seeing Giannis and Lillard are both. I mean, right now they're both questionable. Do you have any, Mango? Do you have insight on if these guys are going to play? I haven't seen today. I mean,
that's the one I don't feel super confident in. I'm guessing both play just because Giannis. They said he's out through the All-Star break, so it sounds like it was a planned thing. And then Dame, I mean, I'm assuming he plays. Like, again, with the Bobby Portis stuff, I just assume they do. It makes sense for Dame to maybe sit because he played, like, the All-Star game. He played the skills, the three-point competition. So, like, if anyone, I think it would be him. But I'm assuming both are playing right now. But, hey, if I get, like, the luck box if they don't play, that's great for me. I'll just load up on it.
No, exactly. And again, we don't know if they're going to play or if either one is going to play. But you do have at least a potential scenario where these Bucks are like just almost like have to have them play, right? If both Dame and Giannis did sit out again, I don't think that's the most likely thing to happen, but it is, I assume, a somewhat realistic possibility. So I do think you want to leave some spots open to get to these guys if that does happen to be the case. Kuzma, I mean, potentially is the number one option in this offense. I think he would become interesting. Kevin Porter Jr. potentially revenge game, right? He was traded from Clippers to Bucks, so that potentially interesting spot there too. So Milwaukee definitely news to watch. And then on the Clippers side, Obviously, it also depends on who plays for the Bucks. But if Powell does sit, pretty good spot for Harden, right? At 9,300 against no matter who the Bucks roll out there in the backcourt. I mean, I think Harden should do some damage regardless here. So I do like him a little bit as well. Zubac is fine. Like this game quite a bit. It's kind of hard to say right now where exactly I'll end up, but this is a game where I think you can kind of build around it and hope those guys sit, and then you've got plenty of options to move off of it for the rest of the slate if you want to. So I'm in on this game. This is kind of, where, like Mangone said, backloading I think makes a lot of sense, and I'll be kind of starting with this game on some of my teams.
Travis, Kawhi Leonard at 7,100 does seem a little bit too cheap here. What are your thoughts on this game? Obviously, a lot of news to come.
Yeah, it's not just Kawhi. It's not just Kawhi 7,100, right? It's Norman Powell possibly could miss this game with the questionable tag. My lean is he's out. I'm kind of thinking that that's the way to go. So 7,100, I like Kawhi. Also, if you look at the forward position spending up-wise, it's just not, great today. So you are just, like I said, that's why when I ran some stuff, Pascal Siakam would randomly pop up. Because if you play some values, you do just have to spend up for forwards at times. So Kawhi will be someone that I have exposure to. I'll probably be overweight on him. I always like targeting Milwaukee's targeting the Milwaukee guards. So James Harden, I think, has to be a contrarian spend up top. 9,300. He's coming in below 10%. I think he's definitely an interesting play. I like Zubac at 7,500 as well as a center option. So those are going to be three guys that I am interested in. Of course, you don't need to play them on the same team. Mix and match them throughout your lineups. You don't want to be loading up on too many Clippers together. I will admit, I definitely have a bias against Ben Simmons. I'm going to keep taking the wait and see approach, I think. And I don't know. Is that wrong, JT? I know you hate Ty Lue and probably Ben Simmons as well, but what's your thoughts on Ben Simmons?
Look, I think he played 28 or 29 minutes in his first game with them. I don't think it was a very good team they played against, if I remember correctly. I'll have to.
Yeah, Utah. Yeah,
Utah, right?
Yeah,
so
yeah.
so I don't want to overreact to it, which means I'm just not going to adjust Simmons at all. And if I get him in my pool and I'm somewhere around the field, and I'll be fine with it. I still think that in a competitive game, it's going to be Kawhi, it's going to be Harden, and the thing about Zubac is Ty Lue has always not wanted to play him big minutes, and so if he doesn't have a reason to, or if he has someone that he can put on the floor, he has generally chosen to do that. That seemingly had changed beginning of the season up until now. I don't know if it goes back to where it was.
This is a good point.
And that's what you were saying, right?
Against the Bucks, he's not closing at the 5, right? Unless they're losing by 15 and they really need. I guess even in that scenario,
I don't think Lopez closes. I don't think Brook Lopez closes.
Yeah, but you want Zubac on the court. You're gonna want to.
Ty Lue isn't. I mean, there's not a lot of logic there, buddy. I mean, so
he's been pretty firm since a year and a half ago when he said we're just playing our big man and calling it a day. But maybe now that he has Ben Simmons, he switches it back up. I hope not.
It was just weird to see in that scenario them playing Simmons so much and not Zubac. That's my perspective.
Yeah, I'd have to go back and look at that game a little deeper. Again, that was right before the All-Star break, so probably why I don't not as up to date on that. Just kind of glossed over it. But yeah, Giannis and Dame, I think with no Bobby Portis, that's just going to funnel that second team usage more to one of those guys, right? I don't think it just naturally makes a Kevin Porter Jr. pop a bit more. If one of those guys are out, yeah, it's going to help one of these options and make them a good play at the guard spot. But we do not have that news, right? That's going to be important. Kyle Kuzma, I wonder if he steps up and has a little bit of a better role. But the problem is, I don't want to invest in it at 6,500 in a matchup against the Clippers. This does not seem like the spot to do it. So I'll take the wait and see approach just based on the price tag and everything that I'm seeing there. And I don't want to play Brook Lopez, right? I think it's mainly, this game is really just looking at the studs. I think that's what we're really focusing on. We have values in other spots. If one of these guys get ruled out, yes, it'll change our opinion. We'll be in the Discord chat. We'll mention some of the values that we like in this game.
So I will say this. I will say this about this in the past, this season specifically, when Portis has missed time, Lopez has gotten extra minutes. Lopez is 5,400 here, especially if what we saw the night before the All-Star break with Ty Lue overthinking and playing Ben Simmons more, going small more. I think Lopez at 5,400 is currently showing less than 1% ownership on him. That's with the Portis news out. I think it's an interesting play. I think you could get 35 from him in the right game environment. So I'm not going to completely discount him. But I understand he has been not great and certainly not a player that you want to have a lot of so far this season. Travis, we'll stick with you. Charlotte at Denver. Denver favored by just a few points, 17.5, 226 total. Give us the news and the notes, Travis. Talk to us about the injury situation for Charlotte and Denver.
All right, well, we do have DaQuan Jeffries. He's questionable. We have Aaron Gordon, Jamal Murray, and Michael Porter Jr. They're all in. So we have a crowded Denver Nuggets situation. But the key part is the Charlotte spot, right? LaMelo Ball out, Josh Okogie out, Mark Williams out, and Vlatko Cancar. He's out too. He's on Denver. But yeah, those are the guys out: LaMelo Ball, Okogie, and Mark Williams. So there you go, JT.
Thank you. Now talk to us about the game.
Yeah, this is definitely a very important spot on the slate. One thing I do like about this spot is, let's say I don't get LeBron James news. I have the Spurs to fall back on. I have the Charlotte Hornets to fall back on. Like, all really good plays. Like, there's just a ton of value in just backloading today. So, Charlotte, obviously we want the starting lineups. That's going to be nice. Is it Elf Payton? Is it KJ Simpson starting? I think it's Elf. And then Nick Smith Jr., probably Josh Green with Bridges, and then Diabate. That's likely the starting lineup. But if they surprise you with KJ Simpson, then yeah, you'd like KJ Simpson more, and people would be well overweight on Elf Payton. So for me, it's like, wait for the news. Is it KJ Simpson? Is it Elf Payton? And go from there. My lean is, though, it's Elf Payton. He's coming in at like 40% ownership. I will admit, I'm a little nervous about Elf Payton chalk. I think there's better plays on the Spurs. I think there's better plays in the Lakers game that I'd rather get to. And I also think Nick Smith Jr. is a better play than Elf Payton. If I had to pick one of the guards to play on the Charlotte Hornets, I think it's Nick Smith Jr. at 4,500. I was looking at ownership earlier. Miles Bridges, he does seem like a really good play in this spot at low ownership if you think they can keep it close. That's the worry. I don't know if they keep this game close. I do not feel confident they keep it close because this Denver Nuggets team, I mean, Big T has said it, I know he's a homer, but this team has been a wagon over the past month, just absolutely demolishing teams. And I do think they demolished the Charlotte Hornets a bit. And I'll admit, I'm not excited to play the Denver Nuggets tonight because they're just fully healthy again. Prices are up. You got Westbrook back at 6,200, Christian Brown at 6,500. I mean, I just think these Nuggets, for the most part, unless it's Jokic is just like a spend that I kind of get to and just kind of call it a day, I don't think I really want to play too many Nuggets in this spot. It's mainly looking at the Charlotte Hornets value plays.
Definitely with the Nuggets at full strength now, it's a little bit more difficult, DC. And Stephen Creighton says something that I was thinking about, which is with them getting Yusuf Nurkic back into a rhythm here, he only played 18, 20 minutes last night. Is this a spot where maybe they give him a start? Centers have been doing well against the Denver Nuggets. He's just 4,300 on DraftKings. Give him a start. Maybe let him start. Maybe give him a couple minutes more exposure here and then release and see if he can get on with a contender because he's kind of at the end of his career, not someone they're going to be building around. I don't know, just a thought I had. What are your thoughts here on the Nuggets and the Hornets?
Yeah, we'll see what Charlotte does at the center positions.
Yeah.
Just laughing at Charlotte. Like, LaMelo Ball has like a relatively modest game, but they do beat the Lakers the first game out of the break. And he's like, nah, I can't play 2 games in a row. No, that's it. I got to take a break after, putting up 27, 5, and 6 in a 3-point victory.
I think it's also the fear that they can't win 2 games in a row. I mean, yeah. I don't think they're winning this game with or without Melo, but
no, agreed. It's still funny that he's just not
yes.
back. I mean, of course, you take LaMelo and Mark Williams out of the equation, and look who's left, and you look at their salaries, and you do have to at least consider these guys. I mean, right now, our friends at Sabre have Elfrid Payton projected as by far the best value, as by far the highest owned player on the slate. Mango mentioned both of those things. I mean, maybe this makes me dumb, but I don't want Alfred Payton at 40% ownership on this slate. And you understand why it's important to understand why it's happening. If you're making a projection, you have to start, with minutes, and a starting point guard, you got to project him, I assume, for like 25, 26 minutes. You just kind of have to. And he's the point guard, so he's 4K, so you get why. But if you take a step back from that and use your brain, like, there's no way he's like guaranteed these minutes by any stretch of the imagination. I mean, he could play like 7 minutes. You know what I mean? Like, it's just Charlotte, obviously kind of in tank mode too. I mean, they don't have their good players playing this game. It's in Denver. They're going to get blown out. Alfred Payton wasn't even on a team for a lot of this year. So that's not chocolate I'm going to eat. Not saying it won't go off and help people win tonight, but not going to be a play that I end up on almost in any scenario, because everybody's going to have him in their lineup. And then, especially if he doesn't end up starting, still a significant portion of people will just leave him in there for whatever reason. So be careful, if you are on him, if he doesn't start, try to get him out of your lineup, I would say. But I'm going to try to avoid Charlotte here for the most part. I would rather go with the younger players, KJ Simpson, Nick Smith, but even those guys, honestly, not that exciting to me. I think Denver takes care of business with the fully healthy team here. And as always with Denver, when they've got everybody in, Jokic doesn't really get affected too much, but everybody else does. So if you want to play Jokic, totally fine with that. I wouldn't go too much else, though, on Denver.
Yeah, I definitely think there's some volatility there on the Charlotte side in terms of who could possibly have a good game on their side that would be useful in DFS tournaments. We'll move on to the next game. Just 2 games left. If you guys have any questions, Steve Kreishin, again, Kawhi, been playing 30 minutes a game. Do you think he decreases his minutes? I don't think so in this spot after a week off, especially if Powell misses. I think it's a spot where you're going to see that 30, 32 minutes out of Kawhi, and I think the price point there is nice, particularly if Powell misses. I like him even if he doesn't, although that midday downgrade usually means that they're going to take the night off.
Did you guys talk too much about Nurkic? I was updating my rankings and stuff. Did you talk? I'm updating my rankings. I'm on the playbook, JT. I just wanted to ask.
You know what? I'm not going to answer that fucking question. That is the penalty for not listening.
Tell us your.
You add yourself back. I'm trying to help the members out at Run Pure Sports, JT. I'm trying to update the rankings. I just wanted to ask.
The members were fucking listening, Travis. The members were listening.
Hey,
they didn't put their beanie over their ears and forget about the world around them.
Yeah, well, I'm updating the rankings. That's all. I had to make sure they're up for the members, the paying members, JT. Is this one of
them? The Suns are going into San Antonio. The Suns are favored by 2.5 points to 238 total. We know about the Wembanyama injury. We know that Charles Bassey is unavailable here. What does that mean? It means that Mamu may play. It means you're going to see more Jeremy Sochan, potentially more Keldon Johnson. These are, in the past, situations that we would think are disgusting because of the Spurs rotation. But this season, it's been a little bit more condensed. It's been a little bit more predictable, particularly since the addition of De'Aaron Fox, since the step forward of Stephon Castle. Of course, on the Phoenix side, everybody healthy, everybody in. What are your thoughts here on the Suns and the Spurs? Looks like one of the better games to watch this evening, and certainly a game with a 238 total to get some pieces of as well.
Yeah. In all seriousness, though, really kind of bummer news on Wembanyama. I think the most fun player to watch in the entire league. So disappointed to see him out. It does, of course, change everything for the Spurs. I assume turns them into, I haven't looked at the standings, but into potentially a tanking team. Maybe I'm off there, but would make sense to me. I mean, they have no chance without Wembanyama. Obviously, in the short term for DFS, it makes them much more interesting. I still think like the backcourt is a little bit crowded still, right? I mean, they have Fox, Castle, CP3, Devin Vassell. I mean, that's 4 guys. That's not including, Barnes and Keldon Johnson get minutes. I I think the interesting thing here, the most interesting thing by far, is what the Spurs decide to do with their center minutes. Obviously, Wembanyama playing the vast majority of those for the team, Bassey behind him. We'll see Sohan, who he has had runs this season and in the past when he's getting minutes where he's a pretty good producer up in the 6.5K range, getting the job done, kind of earns his way up there through his play and increased minutes and role. And it seems like that could be something that happens, starting tonight. He's all the way down at 4,500, which I think is just about his low for the season. If he starts at center, which, I think is possible against Phoenix. They've been playing even Durant there a little bit at the 5. I don't think they'll start that way. But yeah, Sohan, if he does start at center, I think he's an awesome play at 4,500. Probably a good play regardless, even off the bench. But he's interesting. I just don't know what they're going to do. They've got, Biyombo and Svi on the bench, kind of as the true traditional big men. They might go small and put Sohan out there, which would make him an awesome play. Rest of the Spurs, I think, are fine, but Sohan, the one that I'm definitely looking most closely at, and frankly, probably reserving a spot for and seeing how that situation plays out with San Antonio. Phoenix, I think, is less interesting. Do we know, is Booker questionable? Have we got news on
Booker
him?
is off injury. He's going to play.
He's going to play. Okay, yeah. Certainly makes Phoenix much less interesting, and I think San Antonio the more interesting team of the two.
So I checked, people. I didn't see any tweets from Mangone, so he was not tweeting. Travis, are you with us? Are you ready to chat about the Spurs and the Suns, or do you need a minute?
I was listening, and I think you were actually being a bad host. You know why? You didn't ask me for the injury report to kick it off because DC would have known that Devin Booker wasn't questionable, right?
I gave the injury report, Travis. You weren't listening.
No, you have to give me. You have to have me give the injury report because I give it in the full details. That's why.
So, all right, DC. There are people in Discord. There's one person in particular who, for 24 hours, was very excited, despite all evidence to the contrary, that this was a game that Kevin Durant is a must-play because they're playing the game.
This
at
game?
The university. What's that?
This game specifically?
This game. Yes.
Well, it's in his old gym or something, right? Do you have the the details? Right. I'm interested in that. That could be something I'm interested in.
I saw the chat saying it, but who was talking this one up?
Well, it was Beanair. I don't want to, and someone named Tyler is also interested in that. Travis, give us your thoughts here. I'm not going out of my way on a fully healthy team. I don't think that Durant is a better player than, say, Karl Anthony Towns. I think he's fine. Of course, without Wembanyama, he's probably going to have his way around the basket. But Beanair, over 15 bets on Durant. Okay. Travis, talk to us now that we know the injury news, now that we are fully invested in our conversation and for the people. What are your thoughts here on the Suns and the Spurs?
Yeah, now that I'm not updating the playbook for the members, so 9,200 Kevin Durant. I actually do think he is someone I don't say I want to buy in him today, but I think in the future, they showed their cards. They are going to play Kevin Durant a pile of minutes, I think, in the future. So he is someone that I think you have to watch over the next couple weeks and see, because even when Booker was healthy for one of the games, they went in a crazy amount of minutes. That is something I'm watching from them because I don't want
to wish injury on anyone, but there's Kevin Durant feels like a stone lock to end this season on the injured list of some sort, doesn't he? If they're playing 42 minutes a night.
I just remember last year they kind of pushed for it, and I think they're going to do it again. I know it's a different coaching situation, but it was surprising how early I saw them do it with Durant, and I was like, okay, I'm going to watch this because the minutes could be wrong on all these projection sites. And I don't think that's the case tonight. They seem decently healthy. I'm curious to see. I think you could make the case that a Nick Richards doesn't close, and they close with a Durant at times, so that would obviously boost his minutes. But for me, there's cheaper forwards that I like, right? I talked about Banchero, Franz Wagner, other options. So Phoenix is a lot more healthy. The only guy on Phoenix that I really like is Bol at 4,800. I think he's a decent value here. But I will make the case, with Phoenix being healthier, if LeBron gets ruled out, which I am playing that he is ruled out, that's how I'm building my lineups today. I'm probably
what gives you? Let's talk about that, because I honestly think it's 60-40 he plays just based on the history. Why do you think he's ruled out?
Second night of a back-to-back in Portland. I just think it makes so much sense to sit in. That's all. I think Luke out. Like, I just think you just mail it in. You saw Austin Reeves. I think when they had both the guys sit, Reeves went off.
They're coming off a home loss to the Hornets. They don't want to lose this game too.
I get they don't want to, but I don't think he does. And listen, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I'm okay with that, right? Like, I'll adjust my stuff, and that's how I'm playing this slate.
All right. Sweet Travis has spoken. He thinks LeBron is out.
Yeah, and if you want to come back tomorrow and be like, oh, look, there's that Mango guy that fucked up and messed up because he thought LeBron was going to be out, whatever. Like, I'm playing the slate like it's like that. I'm specifically backloading my lineups throughout the slate for that news. If not, I'll still figure it out. There's still good plays, right? There's good plays on the Spurs side of the ball. If we rank them, I think Sokan seems like the number one. It's Sokan and probably Devin Vassell. They seem like the two best Spurs options. If you had to pick one, like, of values, I guess you could say. Like, De'Aaron Fox is probably the other one. So those are like the top three plays on the Spurs today. De'Aaron Fox falls for me in like the Austin Reeves bucket of a guy I'm just going to like load up on and just kind of call it a day. I mean, De'Aaron Fox at 7,900 with no Wembanyama is insane. So I like Fox, I like Vassell, and I like Sokan. Those are going to be the three best plays. Chris Paul at 5,300. I do not think he's a bad option. It is a revenge game if you care about that, but I don't think it's a bad play. Keldon Johnson, I don't think he's a bad option at 4K. I think he shows upside. You worry about the minutes at times, but I do think this is an opportunity for him to get a nice roll. I don't know about Castle at 6,200. I just see the 6,200 price tag, and I'm not.
Megan, do you really think Fox's role changes that much without Wemby? I mean, obviously everyone's role changes some, but he's still got the other guards in the backcourt to contend with for minutes, for role. Wemby's absence makes the offense much less efficient overall. I don't think he's going to have like the ball way more than he otherwise would have. I'm not saying Fox is a bad play, but if everybody's looking at this news and saying now Fox is the play, I'm just not sure he gets that big of a bump. Just my intuition or hunch or whatever.
I get your point. Like, I look at his shot attempts and like, I think he gets over like 20 shot attempts now. I mean, maybe it's like 18 to 20 is like the range where it'll be average, but that's more than he was seeing. Like, I don't know. I just think he's 7,900 is too cheap for him too, right? It's not just that, right? If Wemby was in, you'd be like, De'Aaron Fox at 7,900, that's like really cheap. So I don't know. I think he's a really good play. You could obviously, if LeBron got ruled out, I would take Austin Reeves over De'Aaron Fox, right? That's a clear, just play him instead. But I think 7,900 is really good. I will admit, value-wise, and I know 7,900 feels cheap for De'Aaron Fox, I think, but Vassell and Sokan are like the two best values, and then it's probably De'Aaron Fox. So that'd be like my top three. Then it's probably Chris Paul, Keldon Johnson, and maybe Harrison Barnes, but I'll admit, Harrison Barnes, I don't want to play that much of. And again, it's the Spurs. I think one thing that JT talked about is he's setting a max rule of 2 with the Spurs. I might consider doing that here. I don't want 4. 3 I might be okay with, but I get it. It's the Spurs. Anything can happen. So I can understand maybe wanting to go a max of 2.
Look, I think Fox is a good play. I think Sochan is probably the second best play at the price on the team. I think personally, DC made this point. That is a big piece of the offense to lose. You don't replace that. And that means that there's going to be a little bit of a hiccup now because Fox has been getting used to having Wembanyama. And so now you're going to have all these other guys. I think loading up on the Spurs just because Wemby's out is a mistake. I think 2 guys, fine. I think maybe 3 guys. I haven't looked at Keldon Johnson's price. You can assume that Keldon Johnson is going to play a bunch of backup minutes here, maybe. But I just think the way the slate sets up, that loading up on them is not the optimal way to go. And let's get to this last game of the slate, which is the Lakers heading into Portland on a back-to-back after a bad loss. And Tyler says that LeBron was just bitching about his foot. He's 50 years old, just played 30. But like, this is exactly what LeBron wants. Questionable midday. Everyone talking about him from 2 Eastern until 10 Eastern. He's going to be a game time decision. He's not going to be ruled out. And then he's going to suit up and he's going to play 37 fucking minutes tonight. That is what I expect to happen. Doesn't mean that I like Austin Reeves less, because I think Austin Reeves is a very good play. I think Vincent's a pretty good play. Vanderbilt is out too, right? So, Travis, will stick with you. You are on the other side. You think LeBron isn't going to play. Seen this movie before. It plays out 15 times a season. I'll eat it if I'm wrong. He's playing. Doesn't matter. What are your thoughts here if the game goes the way that you think and LeBron is out and the Blazers?
Yeah, I mean, so I'll just say this. A lot of like the values that I like on the Lakers, I think they're good plays even if LeBron's in, right? Yeah. So that's why I actually want to be more aggressive on the backload, right? It's why, Jason, I don't want to play Aaron Nesmith, right? Why I mentioned at 9% owned, he is not a good play. He is a fade for me. That was for you, Jason. But Austin Reeves at 8,200, I think he's one of the best plays on the slate. It's a matchup against Portland. It's a really good spot. Not only that, like Portland kind of has some sneaky good plays that we'll talk about here that you could obviously swap to, especially if the news kind of falls your way with that. That's another small thing that isn't been mentioned yet on this show. I think the Jared Vanderbilt stuff is big. You know why? I think that really helps Dorian Finney-Smith at 4,200. I think he's actually a really nice value. That feels like a safe option that's going to play, I don't know, probably 32 to 40 minutes, especially if LeBron misses what? I mean, he's going to play 1 million minutes here. Then you could also make the case, if I don't want to play a Dorian Finney-Smith and a LeBron's ruled out, you know who's going to have to shoot a ton? Dalton Connect at a similar price tag at 4,200. He likely would slide into the starting lineup, or a Gabe Vincent at 4K. So, and all these guys are in a similar price range and similar positions where it's really easy to make these pivots and change stuff in your lineup. Even a Jordan Goodwin. I don't love the Jordan Goodwin or get it. I know projections pop him, but like him and Shake Milton, all these guys would open up as really good plays. A Jackson Hayes at 5K would be intriguing. So the Lakers have a lot of good values. For me, it's Austin Reeves, probably number one. Obviously, if LeBron got ruled out, Rui would be a great play at 6.1K, but I'm really interested in like the Dorian Finney-Smiths, the Gabe Vincents, and the Dalton Connects. I think they really open up for some opportunity. And then on the Portland side of the ball, I mean, Scoot Henderson is questionable. Jeremy Grant and Robert Williams. That's actually really big news for me because on the Portland side, for one,
Williams is big news. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, and I don't think people are thinking about that, right? Like, I can easily pivot to some other options if let's say the Lakers news doesn't go the way I want it to. Well, I got Anthony Simons at 6.5K. He's a good play. If Scoot Henderson's out, we could see someone like Banton get a lot more minutes. I mean, against Denver the other night, he got 35 DK points when guys were out. He's definitely not a bad value that you could get to if a Scoot Henderson did miss. A Shaedon Sharpe at 5.4K. He would be intriguing. Denny Avdia. We've seen Denny has had such great and safe minutes and has shown a lot of upside, especially if a Jeremy Grant misses. I mean, at 6,300 in a matchup against the Lakers, why wouldn't I like Denny? And then Donovan Clingan, he was a monster the other day against Jokic. I was definitely worried about the foul trouble stuff, but he was great. Why wouldn't he crush at 5.6K? I mean, it feels like with Ayton being out for probably the next 3 to 4 weeks, I don't think Donovan Clingan's price is going to stay at 5,600, right? He is probably going to be, what, 7K? So I really think these Portland Trailblazers and Los Angeles Lakers are really, really good plays, and I want to backload for them here.
DC, I think, do we think Clingan starts either way if Williams is out or if Williams is in?
I mean, I would guess so with Aiden out kind of long-term now that they maybe like Clingan get some run. I mean, Robert Williams, not a bad player, but, for me, it doesn't make a lot of sense to have them in the starting lineup. See what you got in Clingan is I'm guessing what they'll do. Yeah, he's a good play, 5,600. I have no problem with Clingan. Obviously, the Scoot Henderson news is big, so pay attention to that. You could potentially have a lot of plays in this game. I mean, who knows if LeBron is going to play? You're right, JT. He does love to, leave it questionable when it's the last game of the night. On the other hand, he did also just sit out the All-Star break. So or All-Star game rather. So I don't.
He doesn't care about the All-Star game. He doesn't care about the All-Star game. So, but go on.
I think he he wants the LeBron farewell retirement tour is going to be next level painful. I think he wanted to sit one out. So he's back at the All-Star game on his last.
DC, he didn't want people to take pictures of him and be like, is this his last
Yeah,
game? He wanted to make sure no one could do that shit and he could do it on his own
Definitely
time.
some absolute nefarious bullshit going on there that LeBron concocted in his head for why he was sitting out. Anyway, if he plays in this game, I do think Reeves is a good play regardless. I think we all agree with that. If LeBron plays, though, I don't think a lot of people are going to have LeBron on their teams with the news. And I think it might be really, really hard to get to him, right? Because all the plays you play with Reeves would be cheap. So there's not going to be a swap to go not that you would want to do it, but even if you wanted to go from Reeves to LeBron and then down somewhere else, I don't think many people are going to have that option. So I think you got to plan for it, right? On what you're going to do if he does end up sitting. But I'm kind of interested in LeBron here. I mean, if he plays, you got to assume he's going to play his 38 minutes and have an awesome game. So I think he's somewhat interesting to have in your lineup. Obviously, you got to have a plan.
If he listen, it's easy, DC, and you brought it up. It's easy if he sits. All right, you leave some salary, fine, right? You're going to go to Reeves. You're going to go down somewhere else. Maybe you get some news from this Portland side, but that's what you're going to need. Because you're not going to have it at the Phoenix game. You're going to have it at 8:31, 8:35, 9:31, 9:35. You're just not going to have it. And, like I said, I'll eat it if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty confident this is what's going to happen because you don't rule Luke out in the middle of the day and then not rule him out as well. But we'll see. But I think you play it.
JT, we just play slates differently, I think. Like for me, look at all these early games. They suck. There is so much value in backloading your lineups tonight, and you will get all these plays low owned. And DC talked about this too, a while back on one of our shows. He basically said, we're not playing just one slate at a time, right? We're playing this over the course of a season. And I think you look at these early games and they suck. So why not backload more and more? The more we talked about it, when you guys mentioned LeBron, you won't be able to grab him. We might want to play more Kevin Durant to be able to have the ability to grab LeBron later on, even if he does play. And I think he sits, but there's just so much value in backloading tonight, I think.
Wherein what I was saying was an argument against backloading.
Because I didn't think that it sounded like you were saying that you weren't going to backload as much. That's all.
Nope. I was telling the people how to play it, which is to play it as if LeBron is playing, because then you have greater flexibility. If you don't play it like LeBron is playing, you're not going to – this is what my point was, where you're not going to have the news by the time that Phoenix and San Antonio tip, which means you're going to be leaving salary, but it's more flexibility if you play it as if LeBron plays. LeBron right now, his ownership – let me just pull up what LeBron's ownership is. I mean – it's showing 18%. I think that's a little high. If you set LeBron to say, I've got to have 20% of him, you give yourself maximum flexibility. This is I think it's a 2.5 total for 2.5 3-point total on a back-to-back. Now you've got plenty of flexibility. So that was my point. I think backloading on this, you got two games that are very interesting. You've got the Phoenix and San Antonio game, where I want pieces of. You've got this game where I think Austin Reeves is going on my mean team no matter what. So I want him. And then I think a guy like Gabe Vincent is interesting regardless if LeBron plays or not, just because of his price point and, the fact that it is a back-to-back. So, all right.
JT, here's a good question. If you don't have LeBron news 30 minutes before, are you playing Kevin Durant? Obviously it's not a 1-for-1, but you get what I'm saying. How are you adjusting for that?
I think you're leaving salary. So you're gonna get. There's a risk here that doesn't break your way.
Yeah.
There's a risk that, and when I say doesn't break your way, what I mean by that is there's a risk that LeBron is out and nobody on the Portland side is out. And then you're kind of stuck because now you're leaving a lot of salary and those Portland guys aren't better plays. But I think if we're paying attention to what teams historically do, and this is a player with a long history, especially the last 4 or 5 seasons, this is a guy, the team, they're going to wait until the last minute. They're going to wait until the absolute last minute. It's not done because it's a necessity. It's done for dramatic purposes. Plan for that on this slate. That's my viewpoint of it.
All right. Yeah, I think, again, like it's an important way to – I think it's going to be an important decision to make as we build closer and closer. And I do think if you don't have the news like you're possibly thinking where it's last second, you will see that ownership go down like you said, right? It's currently 18%. That will tank and it'll all go to Kevin Durant, more than likely.
There's no way, unless we get LeBron in like relatively soon, there's no way he's going to be 18% out with the news. I don't think, but I guess we'll see.
Well, I think we need the news before 7 because there's a lot of pivoting you can do between like the Charlotte and Denver stuff. But to be fair, people like don't swap as much as they should. So maybe you're right, DC. Maybe it's going to be too low no matter what because people really don't swap enough, and that's why I just always back.
Now, look, if you play it this way and I'm wrong, and we get news an hour and a half before tip that he's out or he's in, which I don't think is going to happen, but let's say I'm wrong. Well, then you have a lot of options, right? But I think you're right, Travis, in the sense that, and this is why I was asking, like, what are you talking about? I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm saying you leave yourself maximum flexibility. It could burn you in the instance where he's in, none of the Portland guys are out, and you get that news late. But even if it burns you, you're just leaving a little salary on the table. If the rest of your lineup is great, you'll be fine. You'll cash.
Yeah, I get that. I guess mainly because I think I'm building it a little bit differently where I'll maybe load up on some studs later on in the 7 o'clock and 7:30 game. And then I'm also going to be heavy on Portland where I feel like I can pivot stuff enough around. Like I said, I think Portland has some really good plays that people are overlooking.
Okay. We got to get out of here. We got to build lineups. It's time for plays of the day. DC, what you got?
Man, honestly, a pretty hard slate, I think, to do play of the day with all the
this time, yeah. Mm-hmm.
It really is. So I will go with one that I feel good about no matter how the news breaks. I think he's the best spend on the slate, Mr. Karl Anthony Towns. Expecting big things from him against Chicago. And no matter what happens on this slate news-wise, I think you're going to be pretty happy with Towns in that center spot. So I'll go with Towns.
All right. I'm going to go just so that Travis doesn't steal. I know he's not going to steal my play.
He's got a lot of Pacers to choose from. It's going to be, you could.
Yeah.
Guys, again, none of you guys listen. That's okay. You can have your fun and laugh and stuff. But I'm going to laugh my way at the top of the leaderboards when you're just sitting down there, old man, and you've played too much of, the Atlanta Hawks and the Orlando Magic.
Yeah. I'm very worried about not being at the top of the leaderboards tonight. Onyeka, this is, again, dependent on news, but I'm going to have some of this guy no matter what. I'm going to be over the field on Onyeka Okongwu from the Atlanta Hawks. I think he is the key piece of that offense right now. Travis, it's your turn. Make it count.
Tyler, this is another day that ends in Y's, okay? If there's anyone that can handle the strays and dodge it like the Matrix, it's me. So
dodge it like the Matrix.
My play today is going to be a late night hammer. Let's go with Donovan Clingan. I think he's a really good play at 5,600. Like I said, I think he will be 7K very soon. So I'm going to keep buying on the Portland Trailblazers and Donovan Clingan.
Dodging it like the Matrix. Certainly we hope that you can dodge the chalk that busts like the Matrix on this slate for Sweet Travis and DC. I'm JT. Good luck to everybody in your contest tonight.